The day I brought my newborn home from the hospital should have been the happiest day of my life. Instead, my own mother stood in my living room, pointed at the front door, and said, "Take your baby and get out." She thought she was taking my home away from me. She never imagined that within weeks, I'd legally protect everything she thought she controlled. My name is Hannah Brooks. I was 32 years old, married for 4 years, and had just given birth to my beautiful daughter, Sophie. After years of infertility treatments, heartbreaking miscarriages, and countless nights wondering if I'd ever become a mother, Sophie felt like a miracle. When the doctor placed her in my arms, I whispered through tears, "I'll spend the rest of my life protecting you." I meant every word. My husband, Adam, kissed both of us and smiled. Our little family is finally complete. Life wasn't perfect. But it was ours. Or at least, I thought it was. My father had passed away 3 years earlier. After his death, my mother insisted she couldn't live alone. She cried constantly. She begged Adam and me to let her move into our home temporarily. Just until I get back on my feet. We agreed. Temporary became permanent. At first, everything seemed fine. Mom cooked dinner. Helped with chores. Watered the garden. Then, little by little, everything changed. She started rearranging furniture without asking. She criticized how I cleaned. She corrected the way I folded laundry. Whenever friends visited, she'd casually introduce the house as our home. It bothered me. But Adam always whispered, "She's grieving." So I stayed patient. Then I became pregnant. Instead of celebrating, Mom became controlling. "You shouldn't eat that. You shouldn't walk so much. You're decorating the nursery all wrong." Every decision somehow became hers. By the 8th month, I barely recognized my own house. She had replaced curtains. Moved furniture. Even packed away some of my belongings because she thought they were clutter. Still, I kept telling myself things would improve once the baby arrived. I couldn't have been more wrong. The day we brought Sophie home, neighbors had left flowers on the porch. Friends sent gifts. Everything felt beautiful. Until we walked inside. Mom was sitting in my favorite chair. Without smiling. Without saying congratulations. She looked directly at me and said, "We need to talk." I was exhausted. Still recovering from childbirth. Holding a sleeping newborn. "Can it wait?" "No." Adam frowned. "What's going on?" Mom folded her arms. "I've made a decision." My stomach tightened. "This house isn't working anymore." I laughed nervously. "What do you mean?" She pointed toward the front door. "I think it's best if you and the baby leave." For a second, I honestly thought she was joking. Then I looked at her face. She wasn't. Adam stared at her in complete disbelief. "Hannah owns this house." Mom rolled her eyes. "I practically run this place." I couldn't breathe. "I just gave birth. And now you have responsibilities." I held Sophie closer. My hands were shaking. "You want your daughter and newborn granddaughter out of the house?" She nodded. "I need peace." Those words shattered something inside me. Adam stepped between us. "No." Mom pointed toward the hallway. "I've already packed some of your things." I turned around. There were boxes. My clothes. Sophie's blankets. Baby supplies. Stacked beside the front door. She'd planned this. While I was in the hospital. I started crying. Not because of the boxes. Because my own mother had spent the days after my daughter's birth preparing to throw us out. Adam immediately called his older brother so we had somewhere safe to stay for the night. We left peacefully. Not because Mom deserved peace. Because Sophie deserved it. As I buckled my daughter into her car seat, I made myself one promise. Nobody would ever make my child feel unsafe again. The next morning, twist number 1 arrived. Adam and I returned with a locksmith. Mom refused to let us inside. "This is my house now." I looked at her in disbelief. "My house?" She laughed. "Prove it." So I did. I calmly handed the locksmith the property documents. Then my driver's license. Then the mortgage paperwork. Every single document listed one owner. Me. The locksmith quietly changed every lock while Mom stood on the porch screaming. She kept insisting the house belonged to her because she'd managed it. But management isn't ownership. For the first time, reality hit her. She wasn't being removed from her house. She was being removed from mine. She left furious. But the story wasn't over. Not even close. A week later, I decided to reorganize the home. While cleaning my mother's old bedroom, I discovered a notebook hidden beneath the mattress. At first, I assumed it was a journal. It wasn't. It was a planner. Page after page. Lists. Schedules. Conversations. Plans. My stomach dropped. She had spent months documenting how she intended to slowly convince relatives that the house should eventually become hers. She wrote things like, "Keep telling everyone I maintain the property. Make Hannah look overwhelmed. Offer to handle all paperwork." Then I found something worse. A checklist. One item had already been crossed off. Wait until baby arrives. Another read. Convince them they need temporary housing. I couldn't believe what I was reading. She hadn't snapped. She had planned everything. 4 months. Twist number 2 came 3 days later. My Aunt Susan called me. She sounded horrified. "Hannah, your mother has been telling everyone you abandoned the house after having the baby." I felt sick. "What?" "She says she stepped in to save the property." I closed my eyes. For years, Mom had carefully built an image of herself as the selfless parent. Now she was trying to rewrite the story before anyone heard mine. But this time, I had evidence. The planner. The boxes she packed. Security camera footage showing us arriving home from the hospital. Everything. The climax happened during our annual extended family barbecue. Mom arrived confidently. Greeting relatives. Smiling. Acting like nothing had happened. Then someone asked why she wasn't living with me anymore. She immediately sighed dramatically. "I sacrificed everything for Hannah, but once the baby came." I quietly stood up. "I'm glad you brought that up." The backyard became silent. I placed the notebook on the table. Then I handed everyone printed copies of the pages. No speeches. No yelling. Just facts. People read quietly. One by one. Faces changed. Confusion. Shock. Disbelief. Then horror. My uncle looked directly at Mom. "You packed your daughter's belongings while she was giving birth?" Nobody spoke. Mom tried to explain. "You don't understand." My cousin interrupted. "No. We understand perfectly." Then I played the security camera footage. There she was. Carrying my boxes toward the front door while I was still in the maternity ward. No excuses survived that video. For the first time in her life. Nobody believed her. Not even her closest relatives. Family members quietly walked away from her. Some comforted me. Others hugged Adam. Several cried after meeting little Sophie. Mom stood completely alone. The woman who tried to push a newborn out of her own home had pushed herself out of the family instead. Months later, she apologized. Not once. Many times. But some wounds change relationships forever. I forgave her for my own peace. Not because trust magically returned. It didn't. Today, Sophie is 3 years old. She runs through the same house laughing every single day. The house where she took her first steps. The house where she learned her first words. And the house where she'll always know she's safe. Sometimes people ask why I fought so hard over a building. They're wrong. I wasn't fighting for walls. I was fighting for my daughter's first home. For her security. For the promise I whispered the moment she was born. My mother ordered me out of my own house with my newborn. She believed she had all the power. What she forgot was something very simple. The strongest woman in that house wasn't the one giving orders. It was the new mother who had just found the courage to protect her child at any cost. Because the day my mother told me to leave, she didn't take my home. She reminded me exactly what, and who, I was willing to protect. And from that moment on, everything truly became mine.